All right. Well, welcome to the stream, and thank you so much for coming on to talk about pace against chaos. Um, so we'll go ahead and start in with the questions here. Can you talk a little bit about your background and your role on this project?
Yes, I can. My background is fairly theoretical. I've
Okay.
completed the Bachelor's of Science, Bachelor's of Computer Science at the University of Amsterdam, and I'm now near completion of the Software Engineering Master. And my role in the project was basically everything: brainstorming, programming, designing, coming up with the system, basically everything. But I do have to give a shout out to my friend Jorek. He's also in the itch.io page, and Munir for helping me with the initial brainstorming session. And Jorek also helped me find a bug in the compute shader code, which was nice.
All right. Excellent. All right. So the inspiration behind the game, obviously, the Brackeys Game Jam theme itself was um, chaos. What was it? What was it?
Let there be chaos.
That's it. That's it. So did you just go based off of that, or did you have any particular inspiration behind this?
Well, yes, I went off of that. We went into the brainstorming session just dumping everything we could think of onto into some notepad, and the thought occurred to me to have some sort of game of life situation. I'm not sure if you know the
Yeah, John
Conway
Conway's
Game
Game
of
of
Life.
Life.
Yes, okay, very good. Because I found that emergent behavior from those simple rules, I found that quite cool, and it also can become very chaotic very quickly uh, if you have the right patterns and starting position. So that was the inspiration for the game, and well, it's evolved from there. Because in first instance, the game idea was to have patterns for each color in the level, basically,
Hmm.
and then have the user determine the patterns with which they grew outwards.
I see. So you've got like a sort of crystalline growth structure to some of these.
Yes. In the published version, they all just grow outwards in every direction
Hmm.
and stay alive. But yeah, there's been a lot of prototypes along the way.
Nice. So do you see yourself revisiting any of those ideas down the line?
Definitely. I mean, they could all be added as a separate game mode to this game.
All right. So what was your actual development process like on the game?
Well, as I just said, the rapid prototyping. So
Right.
we came up with an idea and some mechanics that could work with that, and then I just went to work and
Mhm.
created a very minimal product, with which I could test if it was playable or not. And the first prototypes were not really playable. I mean, they were playable, but it wasn't fun and it
Mhm.
wasn't chaotic. It wasn't what I was going for. So uh, just kept on working with those new ideas and new findings with these created prototypes.
So what
And then,
actually inspired the like sort of square effect? Like what are we actually seeing here?
so that's those patterns.
Yeah,
Uh, so one pixel will in one time step grow to each of his 9 neighbors, basically.
I see.
And that's done for every pixel on the frame.
Hmm.
So initially, those patterns were more complex, and you had to put in different colors on the board and then achieve a balance of those colors. But that was freaking impossible to do. I mean, maybe with more time I could balance it out so it's actually playable. But yeah,
So
so
there's a lot of propagation going on with each pixel propagating outward to its neighbors. So what's the
yes,
order that you run it in so that they don't just sort of like cancel each other out?
um, they currently have an age for the color. So
Hmm.
I believe I would have to look in the code, but I believe I went with the youngest color. So the one that's placed the latest will
Hmm.
win, will take over the square. And
Okay.
it's it's calculated from each individual pixel. Uh, it checks outwards basically. Well, no, it checks outwards to see which color the current pixel should be. So it can
Hmm.
all happen in parallel.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Toxic Marmalade is suggesting that maybe this game should have an epilepsy warning. But the thing is, as much as there's a lot of visual information, I don't know. I associate cause of epilepsy usually with rapidly flashing colors, and I don't know. This isn't so much flashing. I don't know. Maybe it kind of is. I wouldn't be the one to make a call on that.
Yeah,
Was that at all a concern to you?
I don't know. I've heard one person during the review say that it could hurt your eyes, and
Mm,
that just isn't true. I mean, your eyes adjust uh, to the movement that's going on your screen. They're trying to adapt to that movement, and then
mm,
when the movement goes away, you will have some residual adaptation to that movement. But the epilepsy stuff, I'm not sure. I don't know how epilepsy works, to be honest.
mm.
I have the same association as you with the flashing colors. I don't know if this qualifies as a proper trigger for epilepsy.
Wow, I'm definitely getting my butt kicked on this level. So, is there something that I'm missing about the way that this cube, like, it seems most of the time that I move it, other colors are left behind in a void and they start to grow out.
Yes, so that's chaos. Each time step, each tick
Hmm.
of the game, chaos adds random colors to
Hmm.
uh, the scene where it's possible.
Hmm.
Any color
Oh,
changes can lead to epilepsy. Well,
yeah.
can
Thank you for
lead
the
to,
clarification.
to triggering
Um,
something, to
yeah,
triggering
I think
epilepsy
it
that you have.
definitely something we want to be careful of. Um, right. Yeah, as Burkhart pointed out, it's not just the flashing, but it's the changing as well.
Okay, I
Um,
was unaware.
okay. No, that's good to know. Thank you both for the information. Okay, I managed to make up exactly the 80% that I needed that time. I'm not exactly
Nice.
sure what I did differently.
The hint for this level is at the start. It
Hmm.
says that Chaos has given you power, so you have a bigger cube to work with, but
Hmm.
that speed seems to give it power. Because if
I
you
see.
move quickly, then you leave a bigger hole to yeah fill in by Chaos.
Okay. And is there a different music track for every level in the game?
Almost. I ran out of music, but
Okay.
I think there are 8 tracks and 9 levels, so one is recycled.
Wow. I mean, that's still like pretty good. Where did the music come from?
I made some myself using God, I don't remember the name, but an 8-bit music maker online,
Hmm.
which was a ton of fun. And I also got some free Creative Commons 8-bit music thingies,
Nice.
musics. Amazing.
Yeah. So the is there because what I'm sort of doing is just like doing my best to paint out like as much of the screen real estate as possible in a sort of
Mhm.
Splatoon-esque fashion. Was that the intent with the way the game is meant to play?
There are multiple strategies possible. I mean,
Okay.
not for every level, but I've seen the game played in a number of different ways, and I think that's fun.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
I tried to make the last couple levels to be fairly difficult, so you're kind of forced into a strategy, but
Hmm.
those also have been worked out in different manners than I thought possible. I
Right.
saw.
I notice another thing is that if I like in this level specifically, if I'm coloring over the brown, then that seems to grow, but other colors seem more dominant. It's kind of hard to tell. I
Well,
don't know. Maybe it's
if you
just
take the rules with
yeah,
which it grows, so
yeah.
a center pixel will grow outward. So if you look for those center dots, if you paint those over, it will start to spread.
Ooh. Okay, that's what I've been missing this whole time is that I should be looking for like literally the squares of the origins of each cube. Um, okay, so Toxic Marmalade is asked about have you thought about procedural music?
I have not, but I will look into it. It sounds fun. Is this
Yeah, I would say that music seems like one of the hardest things to do procedurally because I don't know. I guess you can make it follow a couple of melody rules and whatnot, but I know so little about music creation, so.
hmm, I mean, you could just create a couple different songs that each go up in intensity, then switch them out using some
Mhm.
sort of merge. How do you say? Tone one down and the other one up.
Mhm.
They have
Mhm.
the same BPM. They have to have the
Yeah.
same underlying music, and then maybe add some stuff. I don't know. Could be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, this was made in Unity, and
Yes.
can you recommend a useful shortcut or a clever hack in the Unity engine you think it would be useful for others to know?
Well, this was my first introduction into compute shaders.
Hmm.
So I guess a hack could be if you can compute things at the same time because they are independent, do so using the GPU because it gives massive performance gains. But more general, I used a tutorial for the compute shader,
Hmm.
and this tutorial did not do what I wanted to do. However, following that tutorial, understanding what is being done, and
Hmm.
then altering the code to do what you want to do is a good way to go about doing things when you're doing it for the first time.
Absolutely. So I'm assuming that you wrote this like in what GLSL or
HLSL. Oh,
HLSL? Okay.
yeah. High level
Um,
shader language.
yeah. Right. I always forget because I have done only the tiniest bit of work with shaders. Yeah. Have you messed around with Unity's shader graph at all?
I have not. No. This was my
Yeah.
first introduction into any kind of shaders.
Oh wow. So you really went off the deep end with the compute shaders.
Yes.
You know, I got to say, it's not just the frame rate of the stream, but it's actually going kind of slowly on my end as well. Like, is it? And I've got a pretty beefy video card too, so it could be the fact that it's processing the stream at the same time. But
Could be. Have
is
you
it
played it before
supposed to
with
be? No, I didn't. I didn't run it before the stream because I always try to give my first impression of playing a
mhm.
game when I'm trying it on
um,
the stream.
how many FPS do you get?
I don't know. It's hard to. Is there like a frame counter anywhere on the screen?
Do you have an NVIDIA card?
Yes, I do.
Could you do Alt Z or Alt R? Alt R should
Yeah.
give you an overlay. Alt R gives the overlay, but it's not set what that
Okay.
overlay
So
shows.
if I'm looking at the performance,
Think You might.
Performance overlay Alt R. Let's try that.
Yes. The
What? Oh,
performance
that's why I was pressing
overlay
Windows. Okay, here we go. So it says 60 frames per second. Let's
should be
oh
alright.
wow. Yeah. So it
Yeah,
starts
until
at
you
60 and then it
start.
dips all the way down to like 3 frames per second
Ah,
to
that's so unfortunate. Okay.
it's
Yeah,
weird. Yeah, I don't know. It must be because it's also processing. It's doing my video card is doing a couple other things. It's also running RTX voice to help with noise cancellation, and it's
mhm.
also, I guess, encoding the stream. So maybe those two factors together are taxing it too much.
The biggest performance bottleneck is transferring the data from the GPU to the from the CPU to the GPU.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's interesting because my CPU utilization is only sitting around 20%, and then the GPU utilization was only about 66%. So in theory, it could be running a bit more smoothly. But, I again would encourage people to actually try the game for themselves, and I will post the link in chat once more so they can do that. Um, but yeah, I would love to see this, but running at like a nice, smooth, at least 30, if not 60 frames per second.
yeah,
So sorry
the
that it's not
the
working.
first build I made was made to run at 200 FPS, but
Oh, wow.
computers can't handle that. I mean,
I can imagine.
it's strange. I could have, I should have probably optimized how many synchronicity moments there are
I see.
between the CPU and the GPU, because every time you click every game tick,
Hmm.
the data that you have clicked basically, so where you want to paint gets sent
Hmm.
to the GPU so it can propagate.
Well, maybe the problems with my playstyle of just like holding down the mouse button in that case.
No, that it should be fine.
Hmm.
I don't know why it's so scuffed.
Well, as
For
I said,
me,
it could just be an anomaly of me streaming the game.
yeah, for me it works absolutely perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
But the
I'll
classic,
have
it works
to.
on my machine.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a message after the stream is over and just give you a heads up if I get better performance once the stream is not running anymore.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so do you have any plans for the game going forward? Do you want to implement any of those ideas that you came across in the prototyping phase?
Yeah, those other game modes I'll definitely check into to see if I can create actual fun other game modes. And I want to look into this performance bottleneck because it's ruining the game, in my
Oh,
opinion. So strange because some people have no problem at all, and then other people just get 1 FPS. It's
yeah, it could be. I don't know. Maybe so I'm running a GTX 1080, and maybe you could ask some of the other people who are having performance issues what model of video cards they're working on. I'll
hmm,
send you a link. In fact, I will Discord grab this and post it to you right here. And if you share the game on the Discord, then maybe some of the members on there can try the game out. And if anyone's running an NVIDIA card, at least they can give you their model and what frames per second they're getting.
hmm, sounds good.
Um, all right. So the one sort of game mode that immediately comes to my mind, in fact, the way I thought this game was going to work before I actually started playing it, was the idea of colors sort of propagating outward from various like crystallization points. And I
Hmm.
thought that you'd get some sort of shape like growing outward, and that you would have to do your best to like encircle it before it grew too large,
Mm,
and something like that.
I see.
So I can imagine something like that working. I can also imagine having fewer points on the screen, and rather than playing a game of dragging the cursor around and trying to sort of paint over specific things, treating it a bit more as a like some shape appears and starts to grow, and you have to try to really quickly um, click over top of the source of it. But if it spreads to become large enough, then it becomes a new sort of catalyst point and begins to grow off of that. And then again, you just sort of have like more targets growing as the shapes keep growing, and you have to keep on trying to be precise with your clicks to kind of limit the growth.
Hmm.
As for the way the game is playing itself, I think I'll definitely have to try it again after the stream is over to see if because right now when I hit this level, um, I feel like the low frame rate and the bottlenecking is actually preventing me from placing as many colors as I need to succeed at the level. So
I
I'm
think so
not
too.
sure if I actually can succeed at this.
Edginal.
So I'll
I mean,
have
you you
to, yeah,
you could quit and try another level.
yeah. Actually, let me oops, just in case it makes a difference. I will try closing the game completely and running it again. I don't think it should, but
I just meant
okay.
try the last level, but this is fine too.
Is the last level the one in the bottom right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, here we go. Chaos is taking over. Oh boy. Whoa. Wow. Yeah. So it just immediately grows back incredibly quickly.
The last two
Yeah.
levels are I think they are quite challenging, which is fun in my opinion.
Although it is
But,
supposed to be possible.
yeah, it is.
All right.
It
Um,
definitely is possible.
cool. Well, if anyone has any questions in chat, now is the time to submit them. But otherwise, I'm going to ask you if there is anywhere people can find you on social media, or if you have any other projects that you'd like to plug.
I mean, not really, really. They can check out my itch.io page if they want. I'm gonna definitely make some more games in the near future once I finish my thesis.
Well, yeah. So, are you studying like game development, or
The software engineering master.
I see. Right. Well, I will be sure to drop your itch.io page in chat so people can give you a follow on there. And yeah, so here's a better example of how the here's a GIF of the way that everything should be if it were running properly on my system. Um, but yeah, so I think that's about everything we have in terms of questions for now. So thank you so much for making the time to come on and have this conversation
No
and
problem.
talk about pace against chaos.
It's been fun.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good evening, and I would love to see if you make any changes to the game. Hopefully, I can maybe test it out on the stream again and see if we get better performance.
Yes.
All right.
I'll try
Talk
to
to you later.
make it happen. See you
All
later.
right.
And have
Sounds
a
good.
good rest of your stream.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Bye bye.